If you like and wish to be alerted every time we release a new episode, please subscribe and like us. Thank you very much for following us.
Okay, wonderful. It's now 3 o'clock. We get started. Thank you, everybody who joined to this new webinar brought to you by the World Sustainability Organization and Friend of the Earth. Just a few technical notes. We will have a question and answer session at the end of the webinar, which will last approximately 20-30 minutes. And so you are welcome and invited to write and send questions by writing them in the questions area, as you can see on the left of your screen. And answers will be provided at the end. And please use this area for questions only, so it's going to be easier then for us to look through them, to scroll through them. And only the speakers can use the audio with this setup we have now. We might in the future turn to Zoom until this system improves. But anyway, at the end of the webinar, both the PowerPoints and the recording will be made available in our events and webinars area on our websites, and both Friend of the Sea and Friend of the Earth, and also I believe on our YouTube. And all of those who will participate until the end will receive also a certificate of participation. And so let's get started. Today here with us is Mr. Roel Klap, our special guest today, head of grower at Fri-ELGreenHouse H2orto, who will bring us their own case study and experience, and also much more information. Hello, Roel, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you clearly.
Wonderful, thank you for coming. And the webinar today is hydroponics, leading the way towards a more sustainable agriculture. And the case study, as I mentioned, H2orto Fri-EL, tomato production in hydroponics, which has also been certified by Friend of the Earth. And for those of you who have never met me, I'm the founder and director of Friend of the Sea and Friend of the Earth programs and the World Sustainability Organization. And in fact, I will shortly share a few words to explain to you what we do. But in the meanwhile, I'd like to remember that the next webinar is going to be held on the 24th of February. We might have some others in the middle organized, but the one we already set up is going to be on the 24th of February. It's going to be about fisheries impacts, reduction measures, and we're going to have a special guest case study of Medina Rosso di Mazzara, ship owner in Sicily, fishing also for shrimps, red shrimps, roast shrimps, and so on, who will talk us about what they've done in terms of reducing impact and being more selective, in particular using TEDs and so on their trawlers. See, okay. So as I was mentioning to you, I founded the World Sustainability Organization. WSO is an NGO, international NGO, which has developed and launched two major programs, Friend of the Sea and Friend of the Earth, which are both certification standards as well as a group of conservation programs. Friend of the Sea specifically has stemmed from the experience of the Dolphin Safe Tuna project, which has led very important tangible results in terms of conservation of dolphins. And it is a certification for products and services which respect the marine habitat. While Friend of the Earth is a certification of products from sustainable agriculture and farming, and there's over 1,000 companies from more than 100 countries worldwide which have products certified on one of our standards at least. Friend of the Earth, specifically as far as hydroponics is concerned, is very supportive of hydroponics, as it can see the potential for a lower impact way of producing crops, agricultural crops, and therefore it has potential to certify hydroponic sustainability by means of its existing standards and checklists. And in fact, as I mentioned, Fri-EL H2orto is the first group of products which has been certified, and it is also the only standard, the only organization which can, with its standards, Friend of the Sea and Friend of the Earth, potentially certify aquaponics sustainability, as it can certify with Friend of the Sea the aquaculture part and Friend of the Earth the farming part. So just a few words on the Friend of the Earth project. It has been started more recently compared to Friend of the Sea, but there's already over 50 companies in both continents which have products certified, including coffee from Costa Rica, quinoa from South America, as well as other products such as rice, wine, oil, tomato, fruits, and so on, but as well as animal proteins products such as eggs, poultry, meat, and cheese and parmesan, which have been certified in the other continents. As far as the requirements are concerned, they are here summarized. In terms of agricultural management systems, they are very similar to those of integrated pest management, which is currently considered to be the best way to reduce farming impact, agricultural impact on the environment, with the addition of other requirements which cover the whole life cycle in agriculture. So we verify with our requirements, with the Friend of the Earth requirements, the impact that the agricultural site has had on pre-existing habitats, and that potentially endangered wildlife, fauna and flora which occurs in the area is appropriately protected, and adequate wastewater, energy, land management systems, conformity with legislation, as well as social accountability, which is always present in all our standards, Friend of the Sea and Friend of the Earth. A last mention to the fact that we have dedicated an increasing part of our budget in the last years to conservation projects and campaigns, also under the Friend of the Earth logo. And this is very important added value for those companies which have Friend of the Earth or Friend of the Sea certified products, because they can immediately and rightly and fairly claim that they are also directly supporting all these conservation projects. And this is very important nowadays, with companies being more and more consistent in their environmental policies. And that's all from my side. So thank you. In case you have any additional requests for information, you can contact me on email, Skype, WhatsApp. And if you want to receive no engagement quotation for Friend of the Earth certification, please feel free to apply to the link that you see below. And now I pass the word to H2orto. Just after I launch, as I usually do, let me stop my screen sharing. I will launch the poll, which you can answer all through the webinar. It's a simple poll, and the question is today: do you think that hydroponics has potential to be much lower impact on the environment than conventional agriculture, and should be promoted consequently to consumers? So you can answer yes or no if you think that maybe it has a lower impact, or that what we're saying is doesn't make sense. And if you have still some doubts and think that hydroponics has the same impact as conventional, you can answer to the third question. Okay, we'll see the results at the end of the webinar. Thank you.
So this is my presentation about what we do here, and a little bit of history about growing in greenhouses. First slide is where did hydroponics came from? Now, hydroponics is a modern technology with roots in the origin of the earth. We don't grow anymore into the earth itself, but we grow on rock wool, which is basically made from stone. It's like insulation materials that you use in your houses, for example. It's a clean material. It's really reliable and it's easy to recycle. They make, for example, bricks from it, so it have almost no impact. Hydroponics is the oldest form of growing with ocean-going photosynthetic algae and photosynthetic bacteria. So it helps us to produce the oxygenated environment we breathe today. The plants in the greenhouse turn CO2 back into oxygen, which we need to live a normal life. Modern hydroponics were developed early in the 1600s, so it's already something really old what we're doing here. As you can see on this slide, it's used in the hanging gardens of Babylon. That's 600 BC, so that's a long time ago. Same as this. Ancient Egyptians find it in China, described by Marco Polo in his famous journals. Aztecs, exactly the same. Of course, it's a completely different concept as we have here, but it's just a concept of hydroponics. The modern hydroponics, how we use it nowadays. As you can see, back to 1600, experimental growing, CO2 used from the plants. Like this, we make little steps till it was 1925. Greenhouse soils had to be replaced frequently to overcome problems of soil structure, fertility, and pest controls. All these problems were more or less tackled when we started to grow crops out of the ground into rock wool, cocoa peat, you name it, and people tried to grow plants on it. In 1925, they start to use liquid fertilizers because they find out it's the only way that plants take up any minerals and fertilize. Dr. William F. Gerke, this is the father of the modern hydroponics. Then also the word hydroponics gets born. It's from the Greek water and working. In 1939, the army starts use hydroponics to feed the soldiers back in the Pacific. And 20th century, many setbacks overcome, and 1970 start as a viable cultivation. So then it started to be grown on larger scales, especially in Holland. People started to build greenhouses, and step by step, it get bigger and bigger. We don't have only hydroponics; you also have aeroponics. Yeah, modern technique. Fogponics. This is more or less you create the jungle, the rainforests, the constant humidity and nutrition-rich fog for plants, and the aquaponics. Nowadays, most companies who grow salad, latitude, for example, they grow actually on water. It's more or less based on this system, so this is something that's used pretty frequently. The environmental impact of hydroponics versus conventional agriculture. Now less land is needed. That speaks for itself. We produce at 1 square meter about 15 to 20 times more tomatoes in this case as that you would do in a conventional way outside. Fossil fuels and CO2 emission reduced because you can produce where the big cities are, so you don't have all the transportation CO2. Less water is used. Every drip of rainwater that falls on our roofs from the greenhouse, we catch, we save it in big water basins to provide the crops from water during the hot summers. Reduce use of pesticides and herbicides. Our goal is to do as much biological as possible. We start already with this from day one when we plant the crops. We already start with introducing macrolophus is the name. These are kind of small animals who are the enemy from white flies in this case, which is normally a big problem. But we start from day one building up colonies with macrolophus, who are the natural enemies of the white flies. So in that way, we try to don't spray at all. That's always the goal. What I said before, more production per square meter. A good way to fight the hunger. That speaks for itself. The H2orto position. Organic standards do not audit or certify hydroponics. That's pretty simple. A normal way, as we grow tomatoes here, then it's not able to get an organic standard. We believe in sustainability, and that's also what we do here. Market overview. It's pretty simple. Every year there are more mouths to feed. Everybody start to eat more healthy, so logical. You also can see that in how the business goes. Only thing is the high cost in the hydroponic market, because it's quite expensive to build a greenhouse. Global market trends. These are the hydroponic market revenue shares. The crop types, you see tomato is the biggest one, latitude, peppers, cucumbers, and other crop types, because you can literally grow everything in a greenhouse. Differences to other greenhouses. It's not only sustainability. Here we have a 100% circular economy. We are a daughter company from Fri-EL Green Power, which is the Italian leader in renewable energies. Think about the biogas plants, solar fields. So we studied a production system that could allow us to use hot water from our own biogas installation. Here on the site, that's where it all started. We have a biogas installation who produces gas. This gas goes into our CHP, which is a big gas engine which produces hot water, what we use to heat in our crops, CO2, which what we feed our crops, and electricity, what we use to lighten our crops in the winter time. That's how our circular economy is started. Now, as I said before, we recover rainwater and we use it for irrigation. We don't spill a drip. We reuse everything. At the end of the cycle, the old plants become energy again for the biogas installation, and the circle restarts. This is the holding from Fri-EL. As you can see, the wind power, biogas, biomass, hydroelectric, and the agriculture. This is the name from Fri-EL, from H2orto, how it's built up. We aim to create a new market segment available 365 days a year from the same place. Sustainability, minus 70% water consumption, circular economy, recovery CO2 and biomass at the plant. Safe, it's like organic, but actually it's more than organic. No herbicides, for sure no glyphosate. Premium quality, environmental respect. The price position is between traditional tomatoes and the organic certified tomatoes. It's more competitive as organic, that's for sure. More margins, real differentiation, sustainability packing. We make big steps with it. Cardboard, trays, almost no plastic anymore. Our certifications and awards. Yeah, these are the brands that we support the circular economy, recyclable packs, certified quality, use of beneficial insects, like I mentioned before, without waste of resources, respect for the environment, green energy. Our future plans. At the moment, we're building 10 hectares. Next year, we're going to add another 10 hectares to widen our tomato range and our 365 days of production. Constant research for new products. For example, we're growing ginger now at the location Krevelkoren. Oscillator 1 and 2 is our current locations, and we're adding 3 now. Next year, 4 will also be there. Tomatoes we have. Tomatoes on the vine, the Trust tomatoes, which you see in the big boxes. The more premium type Trust tomatoes, they're a little bit sweeter. The cocktails, the Taste tomatoes, and the cherries as our premium product. These are the tomato trials for our next greenhouses: buffaloes, ribbed, dates, even peppers. So that are our plans. That was my presentation.
Thank you so much, Roel, for this very interesting presentation. Before we look at the poll and the questions, I have a couple of questions for you.
Yes.
First of all, so your main products are tomato.
Yeah.
Do you do also other derived products or other crops?
Not yet. Yeah, we have ginger now in Krevelkoren, and we're doing research for peppers, for example.
Okay. Yeah. And which are your current markets and which are the potential ones where these products could be realistically be shipped, considering the cost, etc.?
For now, mainly Italy and Austria and the southern part of Germany.
Okay, so you have potential for providing more, let's say, in case somebody in our webinar or those who will listen to the webinars which will be posted online would be interested. Do you have still potential, or you might take some months to grow that potential, or?
I don't know.
Yes, if you have potential for supplying new customers, let's say, because sometimes, for example, in aquaculture, this is more difficult in the short term because you have to grow the new fish, etc.
Now that's why we're building, because there's a lot of potential here. Now, products in Italy, the Trost products, the big tomatoes, they come all the way from Holland. So if it's grown in Italy, it saves you a lot of CO2 transport costs. Just name it. And,
okay, wonderful. I see that.
Yeah.
So you gave us some numbers in terms of tomato per square meters compared to the conventional. Can you please repeat and maybe give us an idea of how many of similar spaces as your standard plant, let's say one of those that you have, growing plant, you would need to grow in the conventional way?
Yeah, now it takes,
what is the ratio basically?
Now here at 1 square meter we can produce, let's say 20 times more as that you would do on a normal square meter outside. So, yeah.
So more or less, can you give me an idea of how many times more you can produce?
20 times then.
20 times, okay. Wow, so basically one would need 20 times the size of the plant.
Yeah.
In terms of agricultural space. Okay, so this is very important in the future. This could mean that one is already, not in the future, right now, one is already more efficient, but in the future, maybe, hopefully, as it's already occurring, at least in Europe, as the agricultural land size is decreasing and allowing for more biodiversity, for more woods, for more to be grown. So hopefully this will lead this trend to further improve. That's very, very, very interesting. Okay, so let me see if we have, well, before I go to the questions, let's see how the poll is going. That's most of the people are convinced that hydroponics has potential to be much lower impact on the environment and should be promoted, consequently to consumers, and a few have claimed that it has the same impact as conventional. Okay.
Yeah.
So let's see what questions we have. Okay, we have another question regarding the square meter tomato production. Maybe you already mentioned, maybe just give us the final number or estimate that you have.
That depends, of course, on the variety, but the varieties that they grow here in Italy outside, then we can manage to make it 75, 80 kilos per square meter.
Okay, great. And what about what is the actual water saving? Consider the fact that some crops have water from rain. I read some literature saying that there's like 70% less water usage in hydroponics per unit of production. Is that confirmed or?
Yeah, that's confirmed. We know exactly what we give the plants, the amount of water, and all the water the plants don't take in. We catch it up again and we reuse it. And outside, a tomato crop that's growing on the field, the farmer give, for example, 10 liter to his tomato plant, and he picks up 2 liter, and 8 liter is gone. So that's why we can save for 70% of water use.
So this actually considers only the water that is put in by man, let's say, not the rainfall. So there's really a better efficiency.
Yeah, because the rain is that's kind of hard to measure anyway, because we collect every drop of rainwater.
Okay. So another question is about: do you expect other crops to gain market share in hydroponics in the future years? Because I saw the main ones are tomato, peppers, like salads.
We hope so. Salads is already a big thing in the hydroponics future years now. There's already a lot of greenhouses with salads. Peppers also here in Italy, that can be quite hard because it's too hot for peppers in a greenhouse. But we're doing some trials and we're doing some tests because also we want to have a bigger scale of products.
And then I see cucumber. And are you aware of other products? Because some obviously cannot be, maybe it's more difficult, right, to grow in this way. I mean, bigger plants or...
Is the best crop here for this climate circumstances. And cucumbers, it's not a really popular vegetable in Italy. Tomatoes are something everybody eats almost on a daily basis, and cucumbers are not that popular, which makes it for us also more difficult to grow because it's a fresh product. You can't keep it for 3 weeks.
Okay, so probably there are some crops which will be impossible to grow, like corn and rice.
Yeah.
Right, I suppose, and maybe also some fruits which come from plants, bigger plants. So these that you mentioned are those which better fit, at least with the current technology. So what is the comparison? Oh, there's a question for me. Good. What is the comparison of Friend of the Earth to Global Gap and RFA, which is Rainforest Alliance? Well, first of all, I would like to confirm that both these standards are very serious standards, very comprehensive, but they have different approaches. So Global Gap, as far as I know, is very much focused on B2B food safety, And in fact, it started with the mad cow at the time of the mad cow diseases, and it was a way for retailers to have a common standard to avoid the double and triple auditing of suppliers, especially on food safety, not so much on environmental impact, even though it has some requirements. And it has remained focused on B2B. Also, its claim is not so appealing to consumers as maybe, hopefully, Friend of the Earth. And as far as the requirements, I am aware that they're very much similar to our requirements. And on top of that, we have social accountability, which they also have, but it's more like a self-declaration and so on. I would really suggest to go more in depth on their requirements. It's a very serious one. And in fact, we have a certain level of equivalence with them for those who are already global gap. It's relatively not straightforward, but a bit simpler to obtain Friend of the Earth certification. So if you have global gap certification, please feel free to turn to us. As far as the Rainforest Alliance, well, I think one of the main differences is while the requirements are quite similar to ours, the claim itself has let's say, made it so that the certification is appealing only to producers of products in the tropical area, because you wouldn't want to grow tomato in Europe and certify them as rainforest protectors, because it wouldn't make much sense. So I think that the strong point for Friend of the Earth when compared to these standards is very much the consumer-friendly claim, and also the fact that it's completely independent, because Global Gap is actually started and very much supported by retailers themselves, so cannot really claim complete independence, but at least from the start. But still, it's a very serious one, and I think those who have these certifications have already made a very important step forward. So then another question: what about WUE? Roel, do you know what is WUE? Am I missing something here?
No idea.
Western European Union, or I would recommend Alessandro, if you would be so kind to tell us what this acronym is about. Maybe, I don't have time right now to search on the web. I apologize, for my ignorance, but if you could tell us what it's about, because we are not aware. So I'll move on to the other questions. Hopefully Alessandro will let us know on the chat. Hydroponics can be considered as organic plant production? That's a question from Mr. Gutierrez. And Roel, I think I'll leave it up to you.
Yeah.
Can be considered as organic plant production?
Yeah, you can consider it as organic. Only if you want to be specified as organic tomatoes, then you can't use the fertilizers we do, for example, or rock wool slabs, things like that. So it's basically the same as a normal organic product. Only we grow it on rock wool and use fertilizer. But for the rest, it's basically the same.
But Roel, I think here it's important to remind that. Unfortunately, I think at least in Europe, I don't know what the situation is in the US, the organic certifying standards organization has refused to certify hydroponics as organic or consider it.
Yeah.
Do you have some updates about this, or can you confirm this?
I don't have any updates about it, but if you look from ecological point of view, I think we do a better job as a lot of organic certified growers, just because of our circular energy here. But that's a different discussion, I think.
Yeah, but that's actually what I always try to explain to hydroponic producers, that we believe that it's important that hydroponics somehow even differentiates and puts itself at a higher level than organic, because of all the advantages in terms of reduced environmental impact that you already very nicely described in your presentation, Roel. So, and as far as I'm aware, unfortunately, it is not yet possible to certify. Unfortunately, or fortunately for us, it's not possible to certify as organic hydroponics, at least in the EU. And we have another question: have you not thought of introducing fish into your system? From David Smith.
Have been tested, and I know in some other companies who tried to introducing fish in some kind of tube system, but that didn't work out really well that time. But that's already 5 or 6 years ago. So here at this company, not no.
But we see aquaponics growing, and we are in touch with several companies also in Italy, and it's still a relatively new area where technology is not yet so well developed, at least in Europe. But surely that could be a subject of a future webinar with a specific company involved in aquaponics. And then I need to know whether you are cultivating the tomato crop in soilless media or in hydroponics.
Yeah. I think the question is if we grow into the ground directly or not. So the answer is yeah, we grow on rock wool slabs, so not in the soil. So it's a soilless media. Yes.
Okay, and then another question from Chikte. I need to know, how do you manage the light to get the tomato production 20 times more?
We don't have we have one greenhouse with LEDs, but that's just to come through the winter. But in the normal the summer greenhouse we call it, we don't have more light as farmers have outside. You can see a tomato plant as a little factory, and our just work much more efficient as the one do outside. So that's the way how we do it.
Okay. Then from Paola Fezzigna, can we consider a suitable system for developing country, considering the overall cost?
Yeah, you can grow tomatoes in greenhouses or whatever you want to grow in a greenhouse. You can do it everywhere around the world.
You think the investment cost, the initial investment cost, is maybe too big for a small scale producer, or are you aware that it's affordable?
Nah, for small scale is always more expensive at the end per meter as on big scale. But at this moment they're even building greenhouses in the Emirates, just in the desert. So that's a real extreme situation. But even there, it's possible to grow fresh crops in a greenhouse.
And I have a question for you, Roel. What is the main cost voice in the production? Energy, water, I don't know.
Labor.
Sorry?
Labor. Just
Okay.
labor on the crops. That's a big cost. Yeah.
Because they must also have a special expertise
Yeah.
compared to farming, conventional.
A tomato crop just asks for a lot of labor, de-leafing, twisting, because a tomato crop just to give you a little imagine, gets around 11 meters long from day one till the last day of the season. And this 11 meters of plant need to be twisted on a rope, and it's a lot of work.
Okay. Is hydroponics found suitable for strawberry cultivation?
Yeah, but also you have already a lot of greenhouses now at the moment with strawberries, even under LED lights. That's pretty new, but yeah, also strawberries are possible.
Then we have a generic question: is hydroponics the future of agriculture? Well, I think that for some crops, right, Roel, it could be. For others, I believe that, like if you have to grow wine, grapes for wine, or olives for oil, maybe that's impossible, or is it going to become possible in the future, or maybe it is already? I don't know.
It's possible, but I don't think that's a big plus because there are old crops. They need a lot of time. So I think for tomatoes, peppers, strawberries, crops like this, it's the future. But for potatoes, olives, grapes, what to say, I don't think so.
Okay, so and let's not forget that some production, some crops cannot be cultivated in hydroponics, and it has been discussed in one of our courses and described more in depth. There's new types of precision agriculture, which definitely allow in reduction of the impact and increasing of the efficiency. So definitely agriculture is going in this direction. Without any pollinators, how to manage the pollination in tomato? Because most of the times, due to poor pollination, it affects on fruit setting and fruit size and quality. So how to manage the issue of pollination without the bumblebees?
We use bumblebees in the greenhouse. We just buy hives with bumblebees, and they do all the pollination for us.
Okay, so and that's effective.
Yeah.
So it is possible.
Yeah.
And maybe it's more effective because they don't fly away somewhere else, right?
Yeah, exactly.
I suppose.
Yeah.
Since it's costly, do you think a developing country like Sri Lanka could afford hydroponics? I think somehow this was answered. I suppose there are some initial costs, which for big plants could be quite important. But I think then if you look at the medium-term benefits, like reducing the risk of seeing your crop destroyed by extreme weather issues, for example, or things like that, and increase in efficiency, I think that there is potential everywhere, right? Roel, are you in agreement?
Sure.
And then we have Alessandro Montanarella, who explained to us, thank you, Alessandro, what WUE means. It's water use efficiency. So I think somehow we answered to this. Let me see what the question was. Yeah, what about water use efficiency? Yeah, I think we said that it's about 70% less, and without considering the rainwater. So there is efficiency on that. Thank you. And okay, Alessandro is asking if you have the actual data for liter of water used to produce 1 kilogram of tomato.
No, that's not how we look at the thing. So I can't answer that question.
Okay, but Alessandro, surely, if you drop us an email, we'll be able to provide you with precise numbers. But if you look probably at the standard use, or what, as you say, water use efficiency in conventional, here we are saying that there is a 70% reduction of the water inputted by man, so excluding the rainfall. So then you can make your counts, and if you need help, we are here to help and make you aware, informed, etc. So there's somebody saying thank you, and which is the best media you are using for soilless culture?
Yeah.
Can you define it?
At this moment, Roku is the best media to grow in because it's clean. It's always free from bacteria, and so it's the most reliable one and the easiest one to recycle. So I think that's the best media at the moment.
Okay, so we have a last question: how to maintain and monitor the precise water quality in the setups?
We have sets where we can use, where we can measure the oxygen in water with. And the oxygen level in water is always a good meter to show you the quality, because water quality is indeed really important.
So as somebody is asking where we can get more information on hydroponics tomato farming, Roel, for new countries which don't compete with you, are you somehow, have you ever thought of providing, paid consultancy or support, or can anybody maybe turn over to you, or or what do you suggest?
Yeah, they can turn out to me. That's no problem.
Wonderful, because we also want to be kind of intermediating in supporting and especially in developing countries or small scale producers, because that's in line also with the FAO objectives, of reducing hunger and improving production, etc. So whatever, you can contact Roel, you can contact us. We will try to help you. We are here to help, as long as the objective is always, as you know, also to reduce the environmental impact, which I think is the case. So, Roel, again, I will not hold you further. We went over the 45 minutes target. So I thank you very much for being our special guest today. And I hope that also somebody here today, or among those who will read and listen to the webinar online, which will be available on our website, might be interested and turn over to you. We know that normally we also have buyers of retail chains listening to our channel and so on. So again, thank you very much also for your great work in renewable energy and in hydroponics and reducing the impact. And thank you for having been here and provided us with all this very useful information. So I also thank all the participants, and those of you who managed to stay until the end, you will receive a certificate automatically from the system. And so I close the webinar here. If you have anything else to add, Roel?
No, I don't have anything to add. Thanks for listening.
Wonderful. Thank you very much, everybody. Have a great rest of the day, and come back to the next webinar. Thank you.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Subscribe to our channel to get more content about sustainability.